Hi guys, my name is Caitlin. Welcome to my Booktube channel. I know that there are some tags out there that are intended for the first video that a new booktuber uploads, but I wanted to go ahead and do something a little different. I'm sure that there will be a new to booktube or a booktube newbie tag video in my future, but I did want to see if talking about books on camera in general is something that I like doing, that I'm able to do without sounding like a complete moron. I don't talk about books a lot in my day-to-day life, and I am not on camera pretty much ever. So this was just going to be sort of a short experiment. So this video, I am going to share with y'all my 5 favorite books of all time. Some of these, I think most of these I actually read in high school or possibly even before, but they have really withstood the test of time for me. I still reread them, not as often as I used to. I am actually this year, one of my New Year's resolutions was to focus more on reading new books, and that's going very well. But I do still love all 5 of these books, and I am sure I will be picking them up again at some point, probably in the not too distant future. The first one that I wanted to share with y'all today is Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I know this book is, it's very battered and very worn. I'm sure some of you are cringing looking at it. Just a fair warning, I buy a lot of my books secondhand. They come to me sometimes in not so great condition, and I am not always the kindest person to my books. Obviously, I try and do a little bit better if it's a book that I'm borrowing from the library or from a friend, but if I own a book, it can really go through the ringer, especially if it's a favorite book. This is actually probably my 3rd or 4th copy of this book. I've had some in the past that I have literally read until they have just fallen apart, and this one's on its way there as well, I think. But anyway, The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. What I really like about this book is the setting. A lot of epic fantasy tends to be set in a world that's sort of analogous to Western Europe in the medieval times. This book is actually set in a country that is equivalent to the British Empire in the mid 1800s or so. The main character is a young woman named Harry. She has been orphaned, and she is moving out to what is basically a British colony. They don't say Britain here, they call it the homeland, but it's sort of that equivalent, out to a colony to live with a family that has agreed to take her in. While she is out there, she meets with the king of an indigenous nation of people who still live in the foothills of this colony. And the king has come to warn them and to secure their aid in helping beat back an imminent invasion of a northern people. The homeland in this book, Harry's people, they no longer believe in magic. They're very, scientific. They've already gone through an enlightenment period, but in the foothills of this colony, among this nation of indigenous people, magic is still alive and well, and the invading northern force, they actually consider them to be sort of a race of people who have bred with demons, and they have a lot of power. They are, of course, very evil. So this book in general has a lot of the tropes that you would expect to see in an epic fantasy, even though the setting's a little different. Of course, you've got this idea of a chosen one who has it within her to defeat the great evil. It can be a little bit cheesy, a little cliche, but I really love it. And the fact that it was published in 1982 is honestly really great for me as well. I feel like it has sort of that kind of retro vibe when you pick it up and read it. I love Robin McKinley's prose and her pacing. I really just can't recommend this book enough. The second book that I am sharing with y'all today is one that I am sure everyone has heard of. Of course, it is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. This is probably the only book that I was required to read in high school that I actually enjoyed. I had to read it for my senior year English class, and I liked it well enough then. I picked it up about a year later and really kind of took my time reading it and found that I enjoyed it a lot more than I had thought the first time. And one of the things that I really love about Pride and Prejudice is that I feel like it reads a lot like a romantic comedy, and that's something that I have really enjoyed on rereads. I think it has some pretty, you know, funny, humorous takes on human nature. I like the romance well enough, and I'm sure you will all be hearing about it quite a bit on my channel because I really love Pride and Prejudice retellings. I've read several this year. I'm a big fan of the Lizzie Bennet diaries and other film adaptations of the story. I basically just read a lot of published Pride and Prejudice fan fiction if you think about it, so I'm sure this will not be the last you hear of this book on my channel. My third book that I'm going to share with y'all today is Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys. This is another one that I think is pretty popular, so I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it or read it. Maggie Stiefvater is one of my favorite authors. This series is my favorite of hers, and I think The Raven Boys is actually my favorite book in the series, although I do love all of the rest as well. Some of the things that I really like about this book are, of course, the atmosphere, the way that Maggie Stiefvater really blends in the fantasy elements with the real world. I come from not a small family, but I don't have a lot of extended family. I don't have like a lot of cousins or aunts that I'm close with, and so Blue's family really is something that I admire. And then of course the friendship as well. I love friendship in books. I love how all of these different characters fit together. It's not often that I am a big fan of this sort of female main character where it's, oh, I'm never friends with girls, I don't get along with other girls, I don't understand other girls. I think Maggie Stiefvater really manages to do it without being sexist, and I really like the way that Blue just interacts with the boys in this novel. The fourth book that I'm going to share with y'all today is The Truth About Forever by Sarah Dessen. It's a contemporary realistic fiction novel, and it is, I think, a pretty popular one, so I'm sure it's one that a lot of y'all have read or heard of again, but I will talk about it briefly. I really love the way that Sarah Dessen can deal with family and grief in such a genuine way. This book is no exception. I always love her romances. I love the theme of second chances throughout the novel, and how it's not too late to reach out to someone, how it's not too late to really decide how you want your future to go. As someone who was occasionally an overachiever in high school, I do like the brief look at what that can do for the psyche of a person. This is a book that I've always just really liked, and I still tend to pack it up with me and take it with me to the beach once a year for a good reread. The final book that I'm going to share with y'all today is How to Be a Dragon Without Burning Your Tongue by Arlene Williams. I would consider this book to be a little bit of a hidden gem. When I was looking it up on Goodreads in preparation for this video, I discovered that it only has, I think, 1 review and 15 ratings on Goodreads, which is just a little crazy to me because it is such a good book. I love it so much, so I'm really excited to share it with y'all today, and I hope that some of you will decide to pick it up because of this. It's a middle grade book. I came across it in my middle school library. This book is a sort of a coming of age novel with some very strong fantasy elements. I would say it's sort of a magical realism is probably the best way to describe the style that Arlene Williams uses. So the synopsis of this book, this young girl, her mother and her brother died in an accident, and she has to go and live with her estranged father, stepmother, and stepbrother. And it's a big transition for her. It's obviously she's going through a lot. I believe her father was an alcoholic, and when her parents divorced, they weren't on such great terms, although he became sober in this novel. She's having a hard time adjusting and dealing with her change in circumstances. She is exploring kind of out in the desert, and she comes across a dragon and begins her own transformation from a girl into a dragon. What's really amazing to me is how seamlessly this book weaves the fantastical elements into this coming of age story. Really, this is a book about a girl who is learning about the true meanings of family, of friendship, of forgiveness, learning how to grieve and how to move on. And that's really kind of amazing that it all fits in this fantasy novel so well. I had actually not reread this one in a while, and picking up and rereading this as an adult has been even kind of more mind-blowing than it was for me as a child, just because of how well this book has sort of aged for me. And it's something that I really enjoyed. It's something that I would definitely recommend. That's all I have to share with y'all today. I hope you liked my first video. If you have read any of these books, please feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you want to share some of your own favorites, please do so. I'm going to add my social media down in the description box. Please feel free to look for me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads. And I hope to see you all soon. Have a good day. Bye.